Right, today we study a new sutta, the Cūḻa Dukkha-k Sutta. Cūḻa means small, smaller, less, or lesser. Sometimes it's spelled with a double L, C-U-L-L-A. Okay? Cūḻa by itself, the way it is spelled here with a long U, Cūḻa, and then with a dot below the L, also refers to what kind of like a top knot. You sometimes see, especially in Thailand, the royalty, their children and the princes there. Even in China, you might see those old movies, these princes will have a top knot on their head. And you begin to see it's fashionable in some cities, in Singapore, and also old people, they tie their hair in top knot looking like a baby. So that's another meaning of Cūḻa. But here it means the smaller, the lesser, the shorter. Okay, that means there is another one, the Mahānāma the Sutta. All right, dukkha, suffering, pain, something difficult to tolerate. Khandha here means a collection, a mass, and of course there's an insert K there to make it easier to pronounce. Dukkha. You stop for a while. Dukkha, and the k sound is called a glottal stop. In other words, your glottis stops. It blocks the air. That's called glottal stop. No? Not all languages have got glottal stop. In English, I think there are no glottal stops. Dukkha Khandha, mass of suffering, group of suffering, collection of suffering. Okay, Sutta, the discourse. And this is M14, Majjhima Nikaya, Sutta 14. Right? The theme, the true nature, the nature of true happiness. All right, so this sutta is a dialogue between Mahānāma the Sakya and the Buddha. Mahānāma is still a layman. His brother is Ānanda. In fact, his family, all the men became monks, and I suppose the women became nuns, I think, most of them anyway. So he's the only one left behind to take care of the family. And he also practices. From this sutta, it seems that he has at least attained stream winning. Okay? And we will talk more about this in a while. So here, basically, he has been practicing. He tells the Buddha, I've been practicing and I understand the three roots, But yet, I still feel sensual desire. I still feel all these three roots arising. So he asks the Buddha, why? So basically, this is the question. Then that's the whole sutta unravels in that direction. There are a few other interesting things. So this sutta also, like for example, tell us that, or rather from this sutta, we can deduce that you don't need jhāna to attain the stream winning or one's returning. Okay. Of course, not all monks agree on this. Some think that you need jhāna for all the states. But from my understanding of the suttas, when you look at the suttas very carefully, stream winning and non-returning are what are called the layman's way, if you like. For lay people who are busy, it's easier to attain stream winning. Or if you try with dhyana, once returning. Stream winning basically means you give up this idea of the self, of that your mind or body is the self. That's one of the key wrong ideas you reject. So you have to understand the nature of the body and mind as changing all the time. And you study about the Buddha's teaching, so you clear your doubts and so on, keep your precepts well. And you don't get carried away by rituals. You don't do things merely rituals to show that you're doing something, you're important. We don't need that. Rituals are Bowing down to the Buddha is a ritual, yes, but we do it meaningfully. We do it knowing, reflecting on the Buddha, for example. So in that sense, it's a helpful ritual. It's a meaningful ritual. Not, well, we don't see the ritual as empowering us, so to speak. We use a ritual to help ourselves, empower ourselves, in other words. We use our understanding to deepen our understanding. In that sense, it is self-effort. Okay? So if you're able to do this, slowly you find you learn to let go, basically let go of the world that is not helpful, not very distracting. Your karma, you may not be like a good monk, you may not be like a non-returner streamer, but you keep the precepts, you are a much better person than most people. So that's stream winning. Yeah. So you don't need deep meditation for that, but keeping the precepts, the calm mind, are of course very important. In order to attain non-returning and arahathood, of course, you need jhāna. And this sutta will tell you why. So I'm not going to elaborate at the moment, because we're going to look at it in some detail in a moment. So in that sense, this sutta is quite important. It clarifies a few points for us. And there is a surprise here. I was looking at the sutta only this morning, and I realized, I say, oh, there's something very unique in this sutta. At one stage, the Buddha is talking to someone else. And then you find there are many levels of narration. Okay, so this, if you do literature, you understand this better. Levels of narration. If you look at the sutta, of course, there is a storyteller, the narrator. The narrator tells us, "Thus have I heard." So we know this is Ānanda talking. Yeah, and then Ānanda tells us, okay, here's the Buddha, this is where he's residing. And then the Buddha speaks to Mahānāma, all right? And then after the Buddha tells Mahānāma this story about the Nigrantas, the Jains, and then he's telling the story that he speaks to the Jains, and then he tells the Jains how he would himself question himself. So you have quite a number of levels, so we got a number of depths of narration, right? It's something like, I'm telling you, he said this to him, who said this, and so on, like that. All right, like a story within a story within a story. So when you look at this sutta, you see that kind of development. So it's very interesting in that sense, in terms of literature. All right, so this is where you see early Buddhism has got this really great wealth of literary features. Yeah? That's just by way of introduction. Now I'm going to go into the sutta and then point all this out in some detail to you. Let's go down to the sutta itself. Cūḻa Dukkha-k Sutta, the shorter discourse on the mass of suffering, M14. Verse 1. So this starts on page 91, volume 1, page 91 of the Pali Text Society version. Okay. Thus have I heard, at one time the Blessed One was staying in Nirodha's Grove near Kapilavatthu, the Sakya, in the Sakya country. So the Buddha has gone back to visiting his relatives. Okay, let's go down now. Then Mahānāma the Sakya approached the Blessed One, and having saluted him, sat down at one side. Being thus at one side, Mahānāma the Sakya said this to the Blessed One. For a long time has the Dhamma been taught by the Blessed One thus. Just, lust is a mental impurity. Hate is a mental impurity. Delusion is a mental impurity. And I too understand the Dhamma taught by the Blessed One, that lust, hate, delusion is a mental impurity. And yet, says Mahānāma, at times some thoughts of lust, thoughts of hate, thoughts of delusion assail my mind and remain. I have wondered, Bhante, what state is still not abandoned by me internally? Internally means by my own effort, myself, on account of which at times these thoughts of lust, of hate, and of delusion assail my mind and remain. All right, so this is the question. This is the thesis question. Now, from this question, we know it's probably not the Buddha's first visit to Kapilavatthu, because Mahānāma is already practicing, he's already attained this some level of the path, right, from stream winning. So he comes up with this question. He says, I've been practicing and I've heard teachings from you about about last hate delusion or great hate delusion, the three roots. He doesn't, of course, declare he's a stream winner, but he's saying that despite understanding the three roots, they still trouble him. So why is that so? He asked the Buddha, right? Okay, so now the Buddha begins with his answer. Section 3. Mahānāma, there is still that state that is not yet abandoned internally, on account of which the thoughts of lust, thoughts of hate, thoughts of delusion assail your mind and remain. All right, say, okay, it's natural. Says the Buddha. Notice in this case, you find very often the Buddha will address the person. Right here, you see this Mahānāma. So this idea of addressing the listener, very important. It connects the Buddha to the student, the Dhamma to us, so to speak. And the audience will address the Buddha properly as Bhante, Blessed One, and so on, right? Of course, the Brahmins often tend to address the Buddha by name, but they use the word sir, Bo, okay? This is their way of talking, right? So here is a lesson when we talk to people. It's very good to use their name, to address them by name, because people are given names, and when you address people by the name, it has got a very nice sound, connects you with the person, right? So it's especially people who are close to you, or in a family, then to use your name first. I still can hear my mother calling me by my name when I was a kid, because we have this big kampong behind our house in Malacca, and we don't have phones at that time. So when lunch dinner is ready, or I need to come back, you can hear her loud voice. So wherever I am in the kampong, as long as I'm in the kampong, I will hear her and I will come back, and I will hear my name being called. So this addressing people by their name, whether it is a original name or given name or nickname, there is this connection with them, a respect for them, a love for them, so to speak, right? People, especially when you are on the social media, you find it's really good when you address people by their name. And can you imagine someone writes to you and doesn't mention anything and say, can you do this for me, or send me this, or let me ask you a question, but it doesn't mention any name. It sounds very odd, It sounds not friendly. So from the sutta we learn addressing people by their name, and the Buddha always does that, is a very important practice of spiritual friendship, the beginning of spiritual friendship. Right, so the Buddha is Mahānāma, says 3.2, for Mahānāma, if that state had been abandoned, you would not be living the household life. You will not be enjoying sense desires, right? So this is the first answer. What the Buddha is saying is, it's natural for family people living in a household to feel this, but that's the way the worldly life is. So you have not abandoned this kind of life. You're living the family life, so naturally you're enjoying all this sense pleasures, so you have the sense desires. So that's only the start. But Mahānāma, because that state has not been abandoned, you are still living the household life, still enjoying sensual pleasures. So the Buddha says that's the reason why you're still a layman also, because you have all these special pleasures, otherwise you end up as a monk. So this is the basic answer, right? Okay, this is not strong enough to make a sutta. So we have a lot of other important teachings coming. All right, now the Buddha is going to go deeper. He starts from the simple facts, he goes deeper. Let's look at 4 now. Mahānāma. Even if a noble disciple has clearly seen as it really is with right wisdom that sense desires bring little solace or gratification, but much suffering, much despair, even greater danger here. So long as he does not gain zest and joy that are apart from sense pleasures, apart from unwholesome states, or that is something more peaceful than that, he would not be able to be unaffected by sensual pleasures. These are very complex sentences. Notice this is one long sentence. This is how the ancient Indians speak. It's in Sanskrit and Pali also. So that is why I have broken them up into small paragraphs and number them for easy reading. This helps us visually to read the suttas instead of hearing them. All right, so let's look at the first part. So here the Buddha calls Mahānāma a noble disciple. So there's a hint here, at least he must have attained stream winning. But then again, sometimes noble disciple can be used in a polite sense for anyone who has faith in the Buddha's teaching. But here it's a bit more clear, because you notice what follows. A noble disciple who has clearly seen as it really is. As it really is. That means you see the Dhamma directly by your own experience. With right wisdom, not wrong view, right wisdom, personal experience, right wisdom, right your own experience of reality. That sense pleasures bring little solace. Sense pleasures give little satisfaction by their very nature, because they're based on the senses, and senses come and go. But then it brings us much suffering. We'll miss it, and one more, and so on. And there is despair and a lot of danger, a lot of disadvantages in this connection. And what is it that prevents us from overcoming this, from being stronger? The underlying word here, zest and joy. Okay, here there are 3 words, actually in Pali only 2, pīti, sukha. Okay. Here, this is pīti, zest, and sukha is joy. Okay. Zest is the exuberant, wonderful feeling, right? Let's say if you really enjoy good music, when you hear it, you feel really good and happy, you feel like jumping and singing, that's zest, exuberant. Right? Joy is a bit more peaceful. Sukha is a bit more peaceful, relaxing. Okay? So zest and joy here refers to this really happy feeling that arises from jhāna. Right? So basically the Buddha is hinting here, if you've not attained jhāna, you are likely to still be attracted to the pleasures of the body. So here, let me go a little deeper, because this is important to understand. We are a body-based being. We're a body, we have mind. And not just a body, we have a conscious body. This body works with the mind. The body here refers to the eye, ear, nose, tongue, and of course the body, the 5 senses. Right? That's our body. And this body is sensitive to all kinds of stimuli, sense objects around us. This is our body, and this is what we are. As lay people, we are very body-based. We're very dependent on the body. I'm writing about this right now in volume 60.1e. It's very interesting. I'm going into great detail about this early Buddhist psychology, how through the 5 senses and feeling, we actually learn things around us. We learn by seeing, right? Through seeing, we read, we see pictures, we travel, and so on. We learn through hearing, and very important right now, you can hear me, right? We learn through smell, because we can smell fire, smoke, and so on, and we know that's dangerous. And we know the smell of fruits, whether they're ripe or not, and so on, right? And then taste, of course, this is important. We know whether the food is good or not, and of course, we have to eat for our health. Taste. So eye, ear, nose, tongue, and the body is how we feel the temperature around us, and of course, we feel joy with other people, right? So these are the five. They're called the five chords of sense pressures to the body. So this is what we as lay people enjoy. And as long as we enjoy these five sensual pleasures within the five precepts, we don't kill, we don't steal, we don't commit adultery, we don't lie, we don't get drunk because of doing all this, and we are fine. In other words, there is a proper limit. It's not difficult here to understand. It's like taking good food. You know, you're hungry, you eat this really food that you like, and then when you're full, you stop. I mean, you're full, you keep on eating. If you go on doing that, after a while, you're going to hate this food, right? So we eat to live, basically. Then you are fine as a lay person. You keep the precepts, and you're enjoying all these pleasures. You can still be a stream winner once or two. All right, but it is all body-based. So you are stuck with this body, so to speak. You cannot enjoy the pleasure of the mind. So this is the other level, the non-returner and the arahat. So they meditate, they go into deep jhanas. In order to attain deep jhana, later you will see, they rise above the body. Here the body are seen as the five mental hindrances, right? Attachment to sensual, lust, ill will, and so on. So you find the let go of the body, then the mind is totally free. They go into deep meditation and very powerful joy, very happy. And this is the joy, so powerful you don't need the bodily joy anymore. Again, it's not difficult to understand here. You see little children playing with toys, and they are enjoying it. We also used to enjoy those toys, but I don't think you'll play with them now. You say, oh, these are little kids' toys, they're not real, you know, so you understand the nature of those children's toys. So the pleasures of the body is like that to the meditator. They don't need that anymore. They've attained this high level of deep joy. So this is how they become non-returners and arahats, because they've attained the jhanic level. So that's the difference between lay people who are still caught up with the body, with worldly life, and the non-returners and the arahats, which is supposed to be the way of life of the monks who are renunciants. All right. So in that sense, there is zest and joy. And when you have the zest and joy, you will not be affected by sense desires. All right, so that's 4.3. And then now, section 5. Before my awakening, Mahānāma, when I was still an unawakened bodhisattva, I too clearly saw, as it really is with right wisdom, that sense desire bring little satisfaction, but much suffering, much despair, even greater danger here. So notice the words are in italics, so it means it is a repeat, okay? It was already mentioned earlier. So you look at it, you can know. So here the Buddha is saying, when I was still not Buddha yet, same thing, I experienced the same thing, I noticed the same thing. So notice here, actually you don't need a big B, even a small B will do here. So here it refers to the historical Buddha before he became Buddha in this life itself, right? So there are many ways of using this word. The broadest we can say refers to the Buddha from the time he was born until before his awakening. Okay, so that's one way of looking at it. Yeah. a very strict way of looking at it will be from the time he renounced the world to just before becoming the Buddha, right? And then you have the other side, the really broad way of looking at Bodhisattva. You have stories, Jataka stories. So no matter, we will call the Buddha for convenience sake as a Bodhisattva, even in past lives. So in the past life, he was a hare that was very determined to observe the Uposatha, and even was ready to give his own life, you know, to as an offering because he's got nothing to offer, right? So this is a very famous Jataka, which I've written about recently to celebrate this new Chinese New Year, the year of the rabbit. Okay, so this idea of Bodhisattva is non-historical in a manner of speaking. It refers to the Buddha, to his many past lives in when he was in the stories of the past lives of the Jataka, which help us to understand some moral aspect of life, even in the pre-Buddhist way. So these are different meanings of Bodhisattva in early Buddhism. All right, so that is section 5.1. I don't put 1 there, but it is logically, you will know, because it's a method I follow in my style of writing. There are lots of logical implications. You see 5 here, and then 5.2. So logically, this is 5.1. So we don't really have to put 0.1 there. We put 5, so it looks very neat and nice, and we bold it. So there are not too many bold and it's quite distracting. So just only 1 5 here bold, and the rest 5.2, 5.3. This for the teacher to tell you, okay, let's look at this 5.2 now. Okay, and then we discuss this. All right. And now we're going to 5.3. But Mahānāma, when I clearly saw, as it really is, with right wisdom, that sense desire brings little satisfaction, much suffering, much despair, even greater danger here. And when I gain zest and joy that are part of wholesome states, that are apart from unwholesome states, but is something more peaceful than that, then I was able to be unaffected by sense desire. So this last phrase here, second paragraph in 5.3, the Buddha is describing his jhāna experience. He said that when he has gained the first jhāna, at least with just zest and joy, he's able to overcome all those sensual desires. And this kind of joy is the one that he experienced when he was only 7 years old, if you remember, right? So when he remembered that even as a young boy of 7, he went into first jhana, and it was really peaceful and joyful. And he realized this kind of joy is apart from unwholesome states. They have nothing to do with greed, hate, delusion. That's the meaning here. They are good, they're positive. Then the Buddha said, but it's something more than that. So something more than that refers to the higher jhanas. Okay, these are the higher jhanas. Form jhanas, formless jhanas, if you like. So he says when he's able to attain the jhana, even first jhana, then he was able to push away sense desires. So that's the answer he's given. Huh? Now the Buddha goes on to talk about the nature of sense desire. So for our benefit also, for our benefit today, it goes into the details. So this is what early Buddhism is good for. It gives us very simple teachings, very clear teachings. And even today, we are fortunate to have these teachings with us. So we should value them for our own happiness today. So, and this is the wonderful thing. The teaching is that it can still make us happy. 6. So here is the brackets 1, right? There are 5, so you can notice the first one. And what Mahānāma is the gratification with regards to sense desire. Okay, so this topic here, you can say I've added in a subheader for you. Gratification of sense desire. So this is something you must know. Number 1, this thing about gratification. We like sensual pleasures because we are gratified by it. We feel good about it, right? So what does this mean? Mahānāma, there are these 5 chords of sense pleasures. Okay, I mentioned earlier to you, what are the 5 chords of sense pleasures? Something to do with the eye, ear, nose, tongue, and body. So here the Buddha goes into details. What are the 5? Visual forms, cognizable by the eye. This is the definition. Visual forms cognizable by the eye that are wished for, desirable, agreeable, and pleasing. Something we like. Connected with sensual pleasure, arousing lust, right? So this is within us. This is in those forms themselves, so to speak. Okay, so let's look further down. Next, number 2 is sounds, cognizable by the ear, that are wished for, desirable, agreeable, and pleasing, connected with sensual pleasure and arousing lust. All right. So number 1 are visions that we like. Number 2, sounds that we like, sounds we enjoy. We hear, we feel very good. We hear someone's voice, we feel so happy, so excited, right? That's the meaning here. And smells, cognizable by the nose. Now here it's not repetition. Here it's based on early Buddhist psychology. Smells always experienced by the nose, not by the ear or the tongue. Right? There's no crossover here. Of course, the Buddhism doesn't deny the possibility. It just says that sometimes we have this idea of senses crossing, but it happens in the mind, not in by way of the senses themselves. Okay. All right, so here smells cognizable by the nose that are wished for, desirable, agreeable, and pleasing, connected with sensual pleasure, arousing lust. The definition are all the same, so they kind of should have italicized all of them, right? So they repeat. But there's the first line, of course, changes. Taste cognizable by the tongue. Okay, so this tongue here is a different word here. That are wished for, desirable, agreeable, pleasing, connected with sensual pleasure, arousing lust. Touches cognizable by the body, that are wished for, desirable, and agreeable and pleasing, connected with sensual pleasure, arousing lust. These Mahānāma are the 5 chords of sensual pleasure. Now, Mahānāma, the physical joy and the mental pleasure arise on account of these 5 chords of sense pleasures. This is the gratification with regards to sensual pleasures. So here, the Buddha is saying, people feel there's something they can get from these 5 physical pleasures, eye, ear, nose, tongue, and body. That's why they like it. So this is called gratification. So now just a short point before we take a break, we still stay here for a moment, is how do we find suttas interesting, right? Now you all are listening to me because of your good karma and my ability, my knowing you stay on, you listen and say, okay, I know this is interesting, I want to know this, right? So what distracts us from focusing on the Dharma, or for that matter, on any good, important lesson, let's say you're studying, there is this voice in your mind telling you, oh, this is boring, or I don't like this. So this is the voice that is pushing you, pulling you away from all this, taking away your attention. Right? Now, so we all have heard this before, right? I've heard this 1,000 times. Let's put it one a bit hyperbolic here. But whenever I hear it, I said, wow, this is what the Buddha taught us. So here I am hearing this again. And it's just nice to hear it. So I take it like music. You see, when you hear music, it's the same sound. You don't change the sound in the music. So you just listen, you say, oh, this is good. I can hear this again. The Dharma is not lost. So that's how you just let it sink in. You calmly listen to it. And that's how you begin to understand it. And then these are like brickwork, you know, they're laid together, and then slowly you begin to build up more wisdom on them, and then your wisdom grows by seeing them as interesting, as listening to them joyfully and saying, wow, the Dhamma is still alive, I can hear it, I'm happy. And that is how we let the Dhamma into our lives and we grow in wisdom. By not allowing that nasty voice saying, oh, this is boring, or this is very deep, this I don't want to study this, I can't study this. And those are very negative, keeps you in the subhuman, the animal level. We don't want that. The next life that come over tip over, that's rather nasty, isn't it? Okay, so with that, I will stop for a while for a break, and we continue with section 7. Right, after addressing this issue of gratification, right? Why people like or enjoy sensual pleasures, the Buddha goes on to talk about the disadvantages or danger, adinava, disadvantage or danger with regards to sense desires. 7, okay? Number 2 here, 7, number 2. And what Mahānāma is the disadvantage with regards to the dangers of sense desires, or simply what are the dangers of sense desires? Here, this part is very moving, okay? The Buddha describes human behavior. Here, Mahānāma, a son of family, earns a living by means of various skills. Finger counting, or accounting, or calculating, or farming.
Sorry, where are you?
7, section 7.
Oh, okay.
Calculating, or farming, or trading, or husbandry, or archery, or the civil service, or some other craft. Right? So the Buddha is describing, most of us were working, okay? Facing the cold, facing the heat, being afflicted by gadflies, mosquitoes, wind, sun, creeping things and reptiles, even dying from hunger and thirst. Of course, nowadays we are more, we work in greater comfort, okay? But still, we got to put in effort, all right? Next, 7.4. Now, Mahānāma, this is the disadvantage with regards to sense desire, a mass of suffering. Seen here and now, having sense desire as the cause, sense desire as the source, sense desires as the basis, the cause being simply sense desire. Okay, so this is the what's called the refrain. Okay, after this I will not repeat this. We know what this part is. Huh? So 8, Mahānāma, if he finds no wealth accrues to him from his striving, exertion, effort, he sorrows, suffers, weeps, beats his breath, and becomes distressed, crying, alas, my striving is in vain, alas, my effort is fruitless. So this is a disadvantage, right? We get caught up, we struggle so hard to work out of desire for happiness, right? So this is the way of the lay people. If we work hard, most of us are fine, but some of us, many of us, don't benefit from our work. So we suffer. We don't get enough money and so on, and so we become unhappy, right? So what is we have enough money? Section 9 now. Further down, 9. Mahānāma, if wealth accrues to him from his striving, exertion and effort, he feels pain and displeasure on account of having to protect his wealth, thinking, what shall I do now so that kings would not seize it, thieves would not steal it, fire would not burn it, water would not wash it away, unloving airs would not take it away. Right? So this sounds familiar, right? It's from the Digajana Sutta. There the Buddha said, well, work hard and then you must protect your wealth, right? Here, the Buddha adds something else. He said, okay, even if you work hard to protect your wealth, look at 9.3. Yet even as he guards and protects his wealth, king seize it, thief steal it, fire burns it, water washes it away, unloving airs take it away. Well, we still lose our wealth that way, right? King seizes here in modern times would be like you have to pay tax or you get fined and so on. Yeah? Right? So of course, You can still be safe today by, say, buying insurance and so on, but there are still difficulties with finance, right? So he sorrows, suffers, weeps, beats his breast, and so on. Because we may not go through this, but the suffering is still real for us. Okay, let's go further down. So this is all because of we have this desire to be happy. We're looking for happiness, right? So 10, again, Mahānāma, we sense desire as the cause, a mass of suffering seen here and now, having sense desire as the cause, sense desire as the source, sense desire as the basis. Kings quarrel with kings. Okay, in modern language, governments quarrel with each other. US and China and so on. Russia and Ukraine. Kshatriyas quarrel with Kshatriyas. Brahmins quarrel with Brahmins. These are the priests, religious people. Householder quarrel with householders. Mothers quarrel with son. Son quarrels with mother. Father quarrels with son. Son quarrels with father. Brother quarrels with brother. Sister quarrels with sister. Companion quarrels with companion, right? So people quarrel, boils down to their some desire. And here, having fallen into quarrels, strife, and disputes, they come to blows with one another using fists, clods of earth, sticks, and knives, bringing upon themselves death and deadly suffering. This is so real in the US, right? They use guns. This year is very bad here. Recent months been bad for people using guns, right? So, of course, here the Buddha is talking of his times. So we adjust to our own times. There is all this violence going on. Now, Mahānāma, this is the disadvantage with regards to sense desires. A mass of suffering, seen here and now, having sense desire as the cause. So here you see sense desire, meaning people are not satisfied. There are certain ideas that they want, but they don't get it, so they feel frustrated. So frustration is, that means your sense desire get cut off, you're connected, right? And things are getting worse here. Okay, let's look further down, battle imagery. So you see in Ukraine, Russia is not happy because Ukraine wants to be free, right? So you have this is mentioned in the battle imageries. 11, again, Mahānāma, we sense desire as the cause, sense desire as the source, sense desire as the basis, sense the cause being simply sense desire. They, holding sword and shield, wearing quiver and arrow, charge ahead into battle, arrayed in double ranks, arrows flying, spears flying, swords flashing. This is war during Buddha's time, but now it's more complicated. People shoot missiles. Here arrows wound them, spears wound them, swords chop off their heads. Here they suffer death and deadly suffering. Now, Mahānāma, this is the disadvantage with regards to senses are a mass of suffering. And all this arises because of desire, right? They go through all this with all these weapons and killing and bombing and so on, right? So the rest of the section are all the same, kind of repeating, dramatizing this really nasty habit humans have, fighting in wars because of some desire. Okay, let's see what happens next. Things get worse in this case. Further down, after we go on to this time, dangers of immoral conduct, all right, because of sense desire. 13, again, Mahānāma, with sense desire as the cause, sense desire as the source, sense desire as the basis, the cause being simply sense desire. They break into houses. This is robbing. Yeah? They carry away their plunder. They commit burglary. They wait in ambush. They go with the women of others, breaking the precepts of others. Kings then seize them, inciting on them, inflicting on them various kinds of torture. Of course, this list of torture are very frightening. I'm not going to go into any details. They are also found in the Dukkha-k Sutta. Having them whipped, caned, clubbed, their hands cut off, their feet cut off, their limbs cut off, their ears cut off, their noses cut off, their ears and noses cut off, having them subjected to the polished pot, to the polished shell shave, to Rahu's mouth, to the fiery garden, to the flaming hand, to the blades of grass, and to the bark dress. So these are all different types of torture that the king will use. Okay, from the name, you more or less can guess about what's going on here. Yeah? Then, to being strapped to the ground by an iron ring around each limb, fastened by iron spikes, with then surrounded by a fire called the black antelope. Now, these are amazing information from the Buddha's time. Those Indian sociologists, social scientists are very excited about all this, because from this they know what happened in their past. 13.7, to having pieces of their flesh cut and hung on the meat hooks, to the coins, disc slice, to the lye pickling, immersing in strong alkaline solution, to the pivoting pin, where a spike is driven into the skull from ear to ear, to the roll-up straw mat being beaten up, and having them splashed with boiling oil, having them thrown to the dogs to be devoured, having them impaled on sticks, having their heads cut off with a sword. Here they suffer death and deadly suffering. Right? By the way, you see some of this even in the West, during the medieval ages, the Dark Ages. Okay, right. So all this because they have conducted themselves wrongly through bodies, through speech, and through the mind. Okay, further down, 14.2, and after death, they go on, they continue to suffer next life also. And they are reborn in suffering states, the plane of misery, a bad destination, and a lower realm in hell. So this is the disadvantage of getting caught up with sensual pleasures, right? Okay, now the Buddha comes to something more real in his own time. He's talking about the Nigrantas now, so it's referring to the practice of the Jains, certain group of Jains. Now, Mahānāma, at one time I was staying on Mount Vulture Peak outside Rajagaha. Okay, put it down. At that time, some Nigrantas, the Nigrantas are the Jain practitioners. Some of them are naked ascetics, some of them just wear loincloth. Living on Kalasila means black rock, on Isigiri side, was suffering sharp, piercing, racking pains from through standing upright, refusing seats. Now, this sutta is talking about suffering, so the Buddha brings the example of the Nigrantas who practice this asceticism of standing. They stand all the while, without sitting down at all. For years, they do this, the whole life, and they even die standing. Then Mahānāma, when it was evening, having emerged from my retreat, I approached the Nigrantas and said to them, I was so Nigrantas, why are you suffering sharp, piercing, racking pains to standing up, refusing seats? Why are you doing this? Why do you want to torture yourself? Mahānāma, when this was said, the Nigrantas said to me, how is so? The Nigranta Nataputta Mahavira, that's the founder of Jainism, is omniscient, all-seeing. He claims to have complete knowledge and vision thus. Right, so they claim that their teacher knows everything. Whether I'm walking or standing or sleeping or awake, knowledge and vision are continuously and uninterruptedly present in me. Right? So these followers, they claim, oh, our teacher knows everything, so we're following him. He says thus, Nigrantas, you have done bad deeds before. Exhaust them through sharp, painful austerities. And restraining your body, speech, and mind right here and now, you would not be committing further karma. Thus, by the destruction of old karma through asceticism, by doing no fresh karma, there will be no more flow of karma through its being destroyed. And with the destruction of karma, there is the destruction of suffering. With the destruction of suffering, there is the destruction of feeling. With the destruction of feeling, there is the destruction all suffering will be exhausted. This is not Buddhism, this is Jainism, okay? They believe that by doing all this painful asceticism, they can overcome their karma. So this is what the Buddha is going to refute, okay? And this is what we find, so the Jains are still talking at the Jain says, and this is what we find pleasing and approve of, and in which we rejoice. When this was said, I said to the Nigrantas, so now the Buddha replies, Ahuso Nigrantas, do you know for sure that you actually existed before, or did you not? So he asks a simple question. He says, do you actually know you have lived before? Do you recall any of your past lives? And Nigrantas says, no, I don't. So here the Buddha is showing that they are practicing without really doing the right thing. They simply follow blindly. So they say, their teacher says that, oh, in the past they have done bad deeds, So they say, have you lived? Do you know whether you have lived before? They said they don't know, right? Okay, further down. Then the Buddha, this is where the Buddha uses the Socratic method. He asks lots of questions and they can't answer. 18.3, Ahuso Nigranta, do you know for sure that you actually did not do any bad before, or that the contrary is the case, that you did not do that? Do you know or do you do not know that you have done all those things? So they say, no, that we have no way of knowing. And then the Buddha asks, 18.4, also, Nigrantas, do you know for sure that you did not do such and such a bad action? So now Buddha became more particular. Do you know whether you have, say, killed someone? Right? He says, no, I don't know. And 18.5, also, Nigrantas, do you know for sure that so much suffering has been exhausted? So much suffering should be exhausted. With the exhaustion of so much suffering, all suffering will be exhausted. Again, Nigrantas says, no. Here, the Buddha means that, is there a way you know that what you're doing now will push away all the past karma and then you become free of all suffering? Is there any way of knowing that? I said, no way. And then 18.6, also Nigrantas, do you know for sure what unwholesome karma you have abandoned, what wholesome karma you have cultivated here and now? So do you know what you're doing? Do you know what bad karma you have pushed away and what good karma you are actually doing? And then again it says, no. So here the Buddha concludes, says, so Ahuso Nigranta, it seems that you do not know whether you have existed before or not. You do not know whether you have done bad karma before or not. You do not know which bad karma you have done. You do not know how much suffering have been exhausted, how much suffering should be removed or exhausted. And with the removal or exhaustion of all this suffering, then all the suffering will be over for you. You don't know that. And you do not know what unwholesome karma you have abandoned, what wholesome karma you have cultivated. You do not know that too. Okay, now this is the Buddha style. You will say this thing and then he will come with a clincher, we say, with a conclusion. So that being the case, Ahuso Nigrantas, those who are violent with blood on their hands, doers of cruel deeds, when they are reborn amongst human beings, they renounce the world as Nigrantas. Now, here is the Buddha's not so subtle humor, actually. Right? So you should see it that way, okay? The Buddha probably said this with a smile. He says, look, if the way you talk shows that in the past life, you must have been really bad guys, murderers, and that's why exactly Mahavira himself says that they have done lots of bad karma in the past. So, the Buddha says, wow, so all those bad guys, what happens? They become Nigrantas then, right? So he's showing how these arguments are all wrong when it comes to this kind of teaching. Now he gives the good part. How is happiness gained? So here, the Nigranta's reply, 20. Also, Gautama, notice they address Buddha by name. Happiness or pleasure is not to be found through happiness or pleasure. Here they use the same word. Sukha is not to be found through sukha. Happiness is not found through happiness. Right? So happiness got two senses. One is the feeling of peace and joy. The other is pleasure, right? But happiness is to be found through pain. So this is the idea. Okay, so you can see this wrong view, right? For Avuso, Gautama, if happiness were to be gained through happiness, then Seniya Bimbisara, the Raja of Magadha, would have gained happiness. Then Seniya Bimbisara, the Raja of Magadha, would be living more happily than the Venerable Gautama. Be more happy than the Buddha. Surely, now the Buddha replies, surely these words have been uttered by the Venerable Nigrantas rashly without reflection, that happiness is not to be gained through happiness, but for happiness is to be gained through pain. And to bring in the king himself, see? So, okay, this is the part. But surely I too should be counted question here thus. So here the Buddha is telling the Nigrantas, let me put it this way. Now, you should actually ask me another question, then I will reply you. So my point here, I said that if you look at this very carefully, you find that there are a number of levels of narration here. So if you look at the sutta, first you have the sutta narrator, the storyteller behind all the sutta. And the storyteller tells us, Evam Sutang tells us, thus have I heard. Right? So that is two levels already. Okay. You can see this in your notes, note 44, by the way. So narrator is number one. Number two is Ānanda. And then Ānanda tells us that the Buddha speaks to Mahānāma. All right. So you have the Buddha, all right, and then Mahānāma, that is, Mahānāma is 4. And then the Buddha tells that he talks to Nigranta, which is 5. And then he tells the Nigranta to counter question him. So that is 6. So you have 6 levels of narration. 6 pairs of inverted commas. So I leave this in your free time to examine how this amazing way of telling story in the Indian literature. All right. All right. So here the Buddha says, this is how I would, you should actually question me and then I will reply, see? All right. 21, all right. Let's go on to 21. In that case, I will so Nigrantas, I'll ask you a question in return. Answer it if you please. What do you think, Avuso? Could Senior Bimbisara Raja Magadha dwell without moving his body, without saying a word for 7 days and 7 nights, experiencing only happiness? All right. So here, the Buddha, he tells the Nigranta, say, you can ask me, are you really Bimbisara happier or are you happier, basically? All right. So then the Buddha said, let me ask you this question first. Can the king, Bimbisara, dwell, can he sit down, for example, meditate, without moving his body, without saying a word for 7 days and 7 nights, but feeling joy, experiencing joy? No, indeed, I will so reply, Nigranta, that's not possible. All right, here I will shorten everything. So the Buddha said, what about 6 days? Again, Nigranta says not possible. 5 days, 4 days, 3 days, 2 days, just 1 day and 1 night. Even that is not possible, said the Nigrantas. It's not easy for the king. All right. Okay, let's go down. 21.8, further down below. 22. Now the Buddha replies. The Buddha says, but I, Avuso, Nigrantas, can dwell without moving my body, without saying a word, for 1 night and 1 day, experiencing only happiness. All right. So here the Buddha is saying, I can meditate very silently. I can do for 2 days, 3 days, 4 days, up to 7 days. Not difficult at all. All right. So we come near the end now. So in that case, what do you think? 22.7, 22.7. What do you think, Avuso Nigrantas? That being the case, who dwells more happily, Seniya Bimbisara, Raja of Magadha, or I? So here the Nigrantas have to reply, that being the case, Venerable Gautama, the Venerable Gautama indeed dwells more happily than Seniya Bimbisara, the Raja of Magadha. Okay. So the teaching ends here about happiness, right? So the Buddha is, remember, the Buddha is telling all this to Mahānāma. He's saying that you got to go into more meditation. Not only meditation, but you got to go on to do this deep meditation, jhāna meditation, so that you can overcome this sexual desire. That's one way to overcome the three roots, if that's what you're thinking about. The Blessed One said this, satisfied Mahānāma the Sakya rejoiced in the Blessed One's word. He rejoiced because now he understands what's going on and what he has to do. Okay, so we end the sutta here for the moment, that you can ask your questions.
Thank you, Brother Piya. I'll pass the Q&A session to Sister Ratna now.
Okay, thank you, Sister Wendy. Now, anybody has any question? You can unmute yourself. You can put up your ask any question.
So once again, a reminder, just check, make sure that you have the latest notes. Especially note 44, we'll talk about the 6 levels of narration in this sutta. You should have that note. If you don't have that note, that means you have not downloaded the latest file, latest sutta update.
No question at the moment. Everybody can understand what was being said just now? Or you have any other question besides what we have studied? This is your chance.
Ask related questions about Buddhism. Yeah, we still have about 20 minutes.
Sister Ratna, Brother LCO did type a question just.
Brother LC, please unmute yourself.
He typed the, yeah.
Yes.
Yes, we can hear you. Please
Go
ask your
ahead.
question.
I'll start in a chat bit. Monkey mind. Our mind keep thinking.
Yes.
But our mind is not part of body sense. Is our mind part of body sense?
Of course, the mind. If your mind is not part of your body, then how are you going to think and know things? Mind and body, they work together. They're interrelated, closely interrelated. Yeah. They're not separate. Yeah.
But in terms of the 5 senses, are they really part of the senses?
When we talk about them, when the Buddha teaches, yeah, they are categorized, but they are interconnected. This idea of interconnection is very important. They're not separate. They don't operate in themselves. Yeah, they operate through interconnection. Okay. So is that your question?
I just trying to figure out, because the explanation from the Sutta is that the body sense is the one that actually causes us to be attached to the sense desire.
I'm sorry, it's a bit softer, a bit louder perhaps.
Oh, okay. From the Sutta, I take it that the sense desire is being aroused by the body senses, the 5 senses.
Okay.
So I was wondering, then our mind that keeps forming ideas can be sometimes quite disturbing to the mind, and the mind cannot stay still unless we go on meditation.
Yeah. Okay. What's interesting here is this. The 5 senses are called this. What do you call that? Strands of desire, kama guna. But actually, it's the mind behind all these senses that arouses the desire. Right? So the senses in themselves don't do anything. See? It's the mind that sees it, perceives it, and then that's how the desire arises. So I said they're interconnected. See? So it is the eye with the mind, the ear with the mind, nose with the mind, and so on. So there's always the mind behind the sense. That's why it is called the conscious body. We talk about the conscious body. So that the senses operate with the mind. And desire arises through feeling. Okay. The eye, object of something we see, and then there is consciousness. The three meet together. There is contact. We experience this seeing, and then from there, feeling arises. And feeling arises, then if we are not disciplined or our mind is not well restrained, then we begin to decide, oh, I like this, I like that, or I don't, or you just ignore it because you don't know what it is, right? So from there, desire and the opposite of desires, hate arises. And that's how we have to deal with. So it goes like that, okay? All this is explained in detail in volume 60. 60D is one of them, 60E especially. It will be very interesting to read about all this. Yeah? So do make sure you get this volume 60 series to understand in detail this early Buddhist psychology. Okay, go on. Your question?
So I understand that under the 5 aggregate, everything almost starts from contact and feeling. But sometimes when we are alone and then we sit down in the non-meditative mode and close our eyes, but ideas keep forming.
Yes. Yeah, in fact, it's the mind that brings about all this desire. The mind connects the pieces together. So it actually arises in the mind. Okay.
So according to Buddha's Sutta, it says that laymen like us, basically because we are in the layman world,
yeah,
it is normal for us to feel the body, senses, desire.
Yes.
And the so-called our monkey mind that is moving in our mind, and it is also normal. I suppose so. Yes. So in other words, laymen to become a higher level of so-called Buddhist practice, we will always be stuck unless we renounce.
Well, here the Buddha is talking to Mahānāma, who is a practitioner. All right, so in a sense, we've got to contextualize this. Mahānāma is no ordinary lay practitioner, not even like you and I. Most of us are a little behind Mahānāma. Okay, Mahānāma really kind of is a stream winner already, right? So the Buddha is talking to a stream winner. He's saying you can take that step further. So he's telling Mahānāma it's possible for him as a stream winner. See? Okay, now for us as lay people who are not even stream winners yet, here we have to basically understand the nature of all those sources of desire. First, we got to identify what they are. What is it that is catching our eye, our ear, and so on? And then tell ourselves, these are all mind-made, they are impermanent. Let them come, let them go. That's one way of doing it. Another way is the questioning. Okay, why am I caught up with this? And then the answer comes and I deal with that answer. Why am I feeling like this? And so on, that step by step, we ask one question after another until we know exactly what is it that is distracting us, causing us to be caught up with this desire. So these are two ways of dealing with it, right? So, and of course, doing some meditation helps to calm and clear the mind, feeling which we should get out of the environment, get away from the sources that would cause you to have this kind of desire. So that's another way. So this is the training.
So in my gathering of all these understanding, and from this Sutta that even Buddha talking to the stream winner, that the ultimate level to become a Arhat or to become a Buddha will still be the need to renounce.
Of course, in a matter of time, we have to head for some kind of mental training in order to be strong. We need to develop the mind doing meditation so that the mind is not easily stirred up from outside, through teaching it to be calm, so that it is not easily, stimulated by outside thoughts. Yeah, sooner or later, yes, we have to go in that direction. Okay, so
from this understanding, I gather myself that I have to accept the fact that in this particular lifetime, I will have to perfect the practice of the Buddhist life, not as a criminal yet, and maybe hopefully that through the next life that we can then become criminal,
yes.
And then after next life, then we really reach the level of renunciation, and then we can then achieve the level of enlightenment.
Well, you have to start in this life, definitely, what you can, and at least attain stream winning in this life through reflecting on impermanence. That's not too difficult. So even if we don't attain stream winning, we won't be reborn in suffering states anyway. So that this idea of reflecting on impermanence help you to keep the precepts, for example, and at least you won't get into trouble with all those terrible suffering mentioned in the sutta, right? Okay. I don't know, is something wrong with your microphone where there's a hissing sharp sound? I got to check.
Oh, I'm using
it's okay, yeah.
Maybe how?
Okay.
Yeah, because I'm using
okay. Sounds better now. Sounds better now.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay, thank you, Piya.
Okay, thank you very much.
Yeah.
All right.
Question.
Any other questions?
The moment.
Since if there's no question, let me just do this a bit of dedication of marriage for Doris Pham late elder brother. Okay, Doris is here, right? Where's Doris?
Yeah.
Doris, are you here? Okay, yes, I can see her. All right, so we'll do it now. Just please focus your mind with us here. You can also think of loved ones or anyone you think about who has passed away. So this is a request from Doris Pham to put our wholesome minds together to dedicate the merits for his brother's well-being. And I don't have the name here, by the way.
You don't have the name? Wait, you give me a minute. I give you the piece of paper.
Okay, just a minute. Huh? What's the name, Lana? Doris, are you able to tell us? Do you know to turn on the microphone? Oh, you're not sure? Okay, just wait a moment. Huh?
Tan Su Hua.
Tan Su Hua. Okay, thank you. All right, so we are here gathered together from different parts of the world to calm ourselves and share this very precious moment together in peace, in the Dhamma, to dedicate the merits of all these good deeds we have done for the happiness of the late Mr. Tan Su-wah, the Doris Farm's elder brother, who passed away on the 7th of July, 2022, at the age of 87. He was born on February on the 2nd of July, 1935. So people who are close to us, when they pass away, can have a deep impact on us because we're so used to them. Even though we may not meet them so often, that the idea that they are living is a good feeling to us. But then sooner or later, we have to accept the fact that they will pass on. And as we age, this happens even more often. And we find ourselves losing friends, losing relatives. So this is a very powerful reflection to remind us that impermanence is always there, that we should connect with the living, with other people, with our goodness and kindness. And all this we do in memory of the deceased, the one who has passed away, our loved ones, whoever they may be in each case for you. Remember those loved ones and say, wherever you are, may you be well and happy by all the good you have done. We believe that if these reborn beings, they're all reborn, they may hover around with us because they're still connected with us. So what we think and feel, what we say can affect them indirectly at least. And it's like you're watching your loved ones and you hear them saying good things about you, you feel happy. So we're doing just that to the late Mr. Tan Su-wah. And whoever are your loved ones, remember them, picture them, mention their names. Say, if you are reborn in any suffering states, by all this good I've done, may you be well and happy. May you be uplifted from your suffering by nurturing happy thoughts, good thoughts. And if you are reborn in happier states, may you even be more well, more happy, and have a chance to know the Dhamma so that you may even attain the path in this life itself. So send your kind thoughts to your loved ones wherever they are. Wish them well and happy. Direct your love for them. And this is very important. It's just like, you know, people who love you are doing this for you, remembering you, and you feel good and happy with this. And you are doing this to them now, wishing them well and happy wherever they are reborn. And we normally recite a short Pali verse, meaning by all this, we dedicate all these good deeds to this person. The good deeds of what we have done today, we've gathered together from different parts of the world here to recite the 3 refuges and the 5 precepts. We have done some meditation and we listened to the Dhamma. We have gathered together in peace. Now, this is a very good karma. By the power of all this good karma, may the late Tan Su-wah be well and happy. And think of all those loved ones you have in mind and wish them well and happy. And you recite with me. It's just a Pali words, meaning we dedicate this merits to them. Idang wo nyati nang hotu, sukita hontu nyatayo. Idang wo nyati nang hotu, sukita hontu nyatayo. Idang wo nyati nang hotu, sukita hontu nyatayo. By these kind thoughts, may our relatives be well and happy. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Okay, we still have a few minutes. Any questions before we close?
I have, since we are touching on this matter of disease,
Yes.
it's my personal opinion.
Mm-hmm.
At this age, I was thinking, if I were to pass away, what ritual rites would I want to perform? But in the current Buddhist community, I'm quite certain to find that there are too many commercial monks.
Yes, definitely.
So it's in the dilemma
Mm.
as to if I were to pass away, which association or which community
Mm.
can we have a proper Buddhist
Yeah.
rite?
This is a very good question. Let me try to address it. As educated Buddhists, informed Buddhists, we should gather together, get to know each other, maybe through Buddhist societies, maybe on our own. And it's important to keep in touch. When someone passes away, we can gather together to, in a sense, celebrate the goodness of this person, right? So yes, we call it a funeral, but I think we should gather together to celebrate the goodness of this person, not to simply mourn the person. Naturally, the person will pass away, but we know in Buddhism, there's no such thing as really, because a person will be reborn. We see this body, yes, but the person is reborn. So my answer, my suggestion would be, if you love this person, you know this person is your relative, you gather together, then you can think of something that would make this person happy. All right, let's say if he loves classical music, you play classical music. It is a great way to make this person happy. That's part of it, like you are saying goodbye to this person. All right? Something calm, something joyful, something meaningful to this person who's passed away. Then it also be good that, say, a few of you, or even just one of you, say something to the gathered crowd about this person, how you know this person, how the good things you remember about this person. And of course, anyone from the crowd can also say this, something that will make it meaningful for us who are still alive if we have gathered the name of this person. Of course, naturally, we will gather together to have a meaningful, simple meal in joy and memory of this person who has passed away. These are some things you can, put together. And it's a tradition we must start because we are still socially not very strong, even in Malaysia and Singapore, because our society is so broken up by foreign teachers from different countries, and we don't have our own approach to dealing with someone who's passed away, but we can start in this simple way. And then get the basic puja, if you like. Dedication of merits, of course, is a key practice in this case. So we recite 3 refuges, 5 precepts, maybe recite the Metta Sutta, if you like. Okay. So choose a sutta that you like, you can recite. You don't have to follow any particular ethnic Buddhist style, but so you choose what kind of Buddhism that you know. For example, you can take a passage from a sutta that is very beautifully translated or written and then read it as a reflection. All right. So these are different things you can do to celebrate the moving on, the rebirth of this person who has passed away. Some of you may even have better ideas. As you get it together and you, out of love for this person, you find you can do a lot of wonderful things. Now, I feel very sad when all these professional, what do you call this, undertakers perform their prayers. They're very noisy, and it's very meaningless rituals. And people do it just, for to show their wealth and status. And I feel very sad in that way. So we're not even having a culture here. We just want to get rid of the dead. We just want to tell the world, look, hey, we're okay. We have lots of money and we are doing our part. That's all. So that's very inhuman to me. So we can do something really human, really Buddhist. These are some of my suggestions. So I leave it to you to get it together wherever you are and do what you can.
But
Don't think of what you can't do. Do what you can do in small ways and start there. Okay.
I know, but is there any Buddhist group that
I think his transmission is not good.
Oh,
We take
your transmission
there's a suggestion
broken.
from Brother Ryan Go.
Okay,
He
go
says
ahead.
that Sadhu Bante, what you
Okay.
just said as a prayer, was that the Tirukuda Sutta? Tirukuda Sutta.
All right, very good. Yeah, very good. You know that. Yeah, Tirukuda Sutta. Yes. Yeah, you can read the Tirukuda Sutta also. Okay. And there is a Sada Janusoni Sutta, for example. Yeah.
Okay, just now I walked away, no Wi-Fi. So I was talking about, I have attended many Mahānāma Buddhist rituals and then Taoist rituals, but I have yet to actually attend one Theravada funeral rituals. Are there such a thing as a Theravada funeral ritual?
There is. I mean, there are, but currently you have those from Thailand, Myanmar, Sri Lanka, you know, so not local ones. Yeah. So they are kind of foreign things. So we have to start our own, so to speak. Yeah.
Oh, okay. So the problem now is I'm now thinking ahead is that if I were to pass away, then my children will be in dilemma, and then they will be actually at the mortuary.
I think you can look around for Buddhist centers, Theravada Buddhist centers. They probably might advise you. So you choose what is suitable for you. All right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, understand.
Okay, thank you. Any other question?
All right. So it's almost time now. That's good. I think we have finished exactly 10. Any last minute questions?
Bante.
Yes.
No, I was actually typing halfway. It's not so much of a question, but I just want to share with everybody a deep sense of gratitude for Lord Buddha. Looking at over time how the guards at the palaces, at the harem, they were physically treated to reduce their lust, because they have to interact with the palace women, or then the punishment for people who were punished for crime against women. Instead of compassion, we treat them, we cut off their genitals, and we chemically. This is really how powerful and compassionate.
Okay.
Just to share a thought.
Yes. All right. So, anyone else want to say anything before we close?
There's a comment from J.H. Cole.
Yeah.
He says that I heard that one brother in Singapore has a team that help in Theravada Buddhist wake and funeral.
Sorry, what is that?
I heard that one brother team in Singapore has a team who help the Theravada Buddhist.
He's the only one. We have no other choices. Yeah. Of course, he's hopefully we can get more groups like his. Then you know, he will not be overworked, and also we can do more really proper Theravada. We don't put in Amitabha and so on. I think the thing, I hope Prati would not add in Amitabha and so on, you know. Just keep it Theravada, keep it simple, right? And that will help. Of course, you can't make everyone happy that way, but I think we got to start thinking of our future posterity, that we want a truly simple, truly Buddhist practice, Buddhist ritual even. Okay, not something that is just ritual because that's what people want. It is something meaningful, educating, that will strengthen us as a community, as a mature, educated community. And this is very important. All right. All right. With that thought, we will close to this gathering, and let us spend a quiet moment to reflect on the significance of our gathering. Now, we all know there are many things we still need to work on to strengthen ourselves as a community, as individuals. And we have some idea now what we need to do. So do go ahead, especially if you're younger, and even if you're older, get it together whenever you can. and discuss this. And as long as you keep on doing this, something good will happen. And always have this determined mind. You want only the Buddha's teaching, nothing else. There's a lot of other worldly rituals, but we want a proper Buddhist approach, and it will happen. And by all these good deeds you have done today, by coming here, gathering together to remember the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha, this will happen. With that, let us wish all our loved ones, including yourself, well and happy to all the good you have done today. Send out your mind of wholesome joy. May you be well and happy wherever you are. And we show gratitude to the Buddha by the Buddha, Dhamma, and Sangha by bowing down 3 times. Arahang Samma Sambuddho Bhagava Buddhang Bhagavantang Abhivademi. Swakato Bhagavata Dhammo Dhammang Namasami. Supatipanno Bhagavato Savaka Sangho Sanghang Namami. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.